We can't keep doing this, but God help me, I don't know how to stop.
Dad? Yuki?
Yuki's back slammed against the office wall, and Hiroshi's mouth was on hers before she could think. Wrong. This was so wrong. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and every rational thought she'd ever had evaporated under the heat of his touch. Kenji was downstairs, her best friend, the man who'd saved her when she had nothing. And here she was, kissing his father like oxygen didn't exist. "Stop," she gasped, but her nails dug into his shoulders, pulling him deeper. "You don't mean that," Hiroshi growled against her mouth. "I do. But his hands slid down her spine, burning through the thin fabric of her dress, and a sound she didn't recognize tore from her throat. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, forehead pressed to hers, breathing ragged like he'd been running. "Tell me you don't want this. Lie to me if you have to, but say it." Yuki opened her mouth. Nothing came out. 4 months. 4 months since she'd walked into his house as Kenji's innocent friend, broken and trying to rebuild. 4 months since she'd looked across that dinner table and felt gravity shift. "I can't," she whispered. Hiroshi's eyes closed. Pain and relief warred across his face. "Then we're both damned." He kissed her again, deeper, hungrier, like he was trying to memorize her, and Yuki felt herself shattering into pieces she'd never put back together. This wasn't supposed to happen. She'd come to Tokyo to escape betrayal, not become it, but Hiroshi's touch felt like salvation wrapped in sin, and she was too far gone to care about consequences. A knock shattered the moment. They sprang apart, chests heaving, eyes wild with panic and want. "Father?" Kenji's voice drifted through the door. "You in there?" Yuki's not answering her phone. "Have you seen her?"
Yuki's stomach dropped to her feet. Hiroshi's hand still hovered near her face like he physically couldn't let go. "Answer him," she mouthed, terror flooding her veins. Hiroshi's jaw clenched. "I'm in a meeting, Kenji. I'll call you back." Silence. Then footsteps retreating down the hallway. Yuki pressed her hands to her face, reality crashing down like ice water. "Oh God, what are we? Yuki, he's going to find out. He'll hate me. I'm going to lose everything because I couldn't," her voice cracked. "Because I couldn't stay away from you." Hiroshi reached for her, but she stepped back, shaking her head hard. "This ends now," she said. "Whatever this is, it's over." "You don't mean that." "I have to mean it." Tears burned behind her eyes. "Because if I don't, I'm going to destroy the only good thing I have left in this world." She grabbed her bag and ran, leaving Hiroshi standing in the wreckage of what they'd started, leaving the only man who'd made her feel alive since Frank ripped her heart out and fed it to her best friend. Leaving before she changed her mind and stayed. But what Yuki didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that Kenji hadn't walked away from that door. He'd stood there, listening, and he'd heard everything. "Okay, I know you're hooked, but before we go any further, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me if you think Yuki should run or burn the world down for Hiroshi. And let me know where you're watching from because this story is about to get brutal, and I need to know you're ready for this." Now, let's rewind to where it all started. 4 months ago, Yuki Nakamura stepped off a plane in Tokyo with one suitcase, a broken heart, and a promise to never trust anyone again. The customs officer at Narita looked at Yuki's passport like it was counterfeit. "Purpose of visit?" he asked in clipped Japanese. "Graduate fellowship. Waseda University." His eyes flicked to her face, black, exhausted, clearly American despite the Japanese name. The pause stretched just long enough to sting. Then he stamped her passport and waved her through without another word. "Welcome to Tokyo." Yuki dragged her suitcase through arrivals, past reuniting families and barking businessmen, feeling loneliness settle over her like a second skin. She'd left Vancouver with $3,000, a research grant, and the kind of rage that came from trusting the wrong people. Frank had proposed 3 months ago. Down on one knee at that overpriced Italian place, diamond glittering under mood lighting, his perfect smile promising forever. She'd said yes because she loved him. Because after 2 years it made sense. Because her mother had already started calling venues. Then she found Sienna's phone in Frank's car. Not her number in his contacts, her actual phone. The screen lit up with a text from Frank, she suspects. "We need to be careful." Yuki had read 2 years of messages. 2 years of I love yous and stolen weekends and lies so elaborate they made her physically sick. Frank had been sleeping with her best friend since before he proposed. Maybe the whole damn time. When she confronted them, Frank had the audacity to look hurt. It just happened, Yuki. We didn't mean to fall in love. She'd thrown the ring at his face and walked out. Applied to every international program she could find. Tokyo was the first acceptance, the farthest she could run without leaving the planet. The apartment was a shoebox. 1 room, bathroom the size of a closet, kitchenette that was more concept than reality. But it was hers. No Frank, no Sienna, no pitying looks from friends who'd known and said nothing. She dropped her suitcase on the bare floor and finally let herself cry. 2 weeks later, she met Kenji, graduate seminar, international business ethics, room full of overachievers debating corporate responsibility like their opinions mattered. Yuki had been silent for 3 sessions, taking notes, trying to disappear into the walls. Then Kenji slid into the seat next to her. "You look like you'd rather be literally anywhere else," he whispered. She glanced at him, mid-20s, kind face, expensive watch that whispered family money without screaming it. That obvious? Only to people who feel the same. He extended his hand. Kenji Tanaka, Yuki Nakamura. His handshake was warm, his smile genuine. And when the professor called on Yuki to share thoughts on ethical capitalism, Kenji leaned over and whispered, "Just say it's a paradox. Works every time." She almost smiled. After class, Kenji invited her for coffee. Yuki's instinct screamed no. She'd sworn off people, connection, anything requiring vulnerability. But Kenji had energy that made refusal feel cruel. "I'm not good company," she warned. "Neither am I," he said cheerfully. "We'll cancel each other out." The cafe was small, crowded, conversations blurring into comfortable noise. Kenji ordered in rapid Japanese, then turned with a grin. "So, Vancouver, what are you running from?" Yuki's chest tightened. "What makes you think I'm running?" "Because happy people don't move to Tokyo alone with 1 suitcase and 0 friends." He sipped his coffee. "It's okay, I'm not asking for details. Just acknowledging the vibe." Despite herself, Yuki laughed. It felt rusty, strange. "Bad breakup," she said finally. "The kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew about people." "Ah, the classic." Kenji nodded like a wise sage. "My ex cheated with her yoga instructor." Cliché, right? But it still felt like getting hit by a truck made of lies and downward dogs. Yuki snorted. "That's weirdly specific. Trauma makes you poetic." He grinned. "You'll get there too, the healing part, not the poetry. Although poetry helps." Over the next month, Kenji became her anchor. Study partner, cultural translator, the person who texted restaurant recommendations and reminded her to eat when she got lost in research. He never pushed for more than she could give. Never asked invasive questions. He was safe. And Yuki needed safe more than she needed air. "My family's having dinner Friday," Kenji said one afternoon, packing his laptop. "You should come." Yuki hesitated. "I don't want to intrude." "You're not. My dad loves meeting my friends. My sister will probably roast you within 5 minutes, but the food is incredible." He paused. "Plus you've been here 2 months and only seen campus and your apartment. That's depressing even by grad student standards." He wasn't wrong. "Okay," Yuki said, "but if it gets weird, I'm leaving." Deal. She had no idea she'd just agreed to detonate her entire life. The Tanaka estate wasn't what Yuki expected. She'd imagined a modern apartment, maybe a nice condo in Shibuya. Instead, Kenji led her through a traditional gate into a sprawling compound that looked centuries old. Stone pathways, koi ponds, gardens that felt like living art. "Your family lives here?" Yuki asked, stunned. "Father's traditional," Kenji said. "Also, he likes reminding people he has money. Fair warning, he's going to quiz you about everything. It's his thing." Rina met them at the door, 19, bright-eyed, wearing ripped jeans and an oversized band shirt. "You're Yuki," Rina said in perfect English, then switched to Japanese. "Kenji's told me everything. You're researching corporate ethics, which is hilarious considering what our family actually does for money. But I already like you." Yuki blinked. "Thanks." "Rina, don't scare her," Kenji muttered. "I'm delightful, not scary." Rina looped her arm through Yuki's. "Come on, father's in the dining room pretending he's not nervous. It's adorable." "Why would he be nervous?" Rina's grin turned wicked. "Because Kenji never brings friends home. Last time was 3 years ago and she turned out to be stealing from us. So yeah, high stakes, no pressure though." They entered the dining room, low table, silk cushions, everything elegant and minimalist.
and standing by the window, hands clasped behind his back, was Hiroshi Tanaka. Yuki's breath caught in her throat. He was older than she expected, late 40s, maybe pushing 50, silver threading through dark hair, face that looked carved from stone, sharp jaw, high cheekbones, eyes that saw straight through bullshit, into your soul. Simple black shirt, no tie. But he carried himself like a man who'd never had to raise his voice to own a room. He turned, and those dark eyes landed on Yuki. The air shifted, charged, dangerous. "Father, this is Yuki," Kenji said. "Yuki, my father, Hiroshi Tanaka." Hiroshi stepped forward, and Yuki straightened instinctively, like her body recognized authority before her brain caught up. He extended his hand. "Welcome." His voice was low, controlled, but something underneath made her spine tingle. Yuki shook his hand. His grip was warm, firm, deliberate. He held on 1 second longer than necessary. Or maybe she imagined it. "Your Japanese is excellent," Hiroshi said. "My father was Japanese. He taught me before he died." Something flickered in Hiroshi's expression. Not pity. Understanding. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." He released her hand, but his gaze lingered. Assessing, curious, interested in a way that made heat crawl up her neck. "Please, sit," Hiroshi said, gesturing to the table. Dinner was formal, but warm. Rina chattered about her photography classes with chaotic energy. Kenji told stories about incompetent professors. And Hiroshi asked questions, not small talk, real questions. "Why corporate ethics?" he asked at one point. "Because corporations have more power than governments," Yuki said. "And no one holds them accountable. And you think research will change that?" "I think silence guarantees it won't." Hiroshi's mouth curved. Almost a smile. "You're idealistic. You say that like it's a flaw. It's not. It's rare. Refreshing even." His eyes held hers. "Most people your age are either too cynical or too naive. You seem to be neither." "I've had good teachers." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I'd like to hear about them sometime." The words hung in the air, weighted with something Yuki couldn't name. Rina, oblivious, launched into a story about a disastrous photo shoot involving pigeons and a wedding dress. Kenji laughed, and Yuki tried to focus on her food, on the conversation, on anything except the way Hiroshi's gaze kept finding her across the table. After dinner, Hiroshi walked her to the door, while Kenji and Rina argued about dishes in the kitchen. "Thank you for coming," Hiroshi said quietly. "Thank you for having me. Kenji speaks highly of you. He doesn't trust easily, so that tells me something important." "What does it tell you?" Hiroshi tilted his head slightly, studying her. "That you're worth knowing." Yuki's pulse quickened. "You don't know me. Not yet." The words landed like a promise. "But I'd like to. If you're comfortable with that," she should have said. "No." Should have smiled politely and left. Instead, she said, "I'd like that too." Something shifted in Hiroshi's expression. Satisfaction, heat, danger. "Good night, Yuki," he said, voice dropping lower. "Good night." She walked to the station in a daze, Hiroshi's voice echoing in her head, his eyes burned into her memory. She told herself it was nothing. Politeness. Cultural hospitality. But when she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't stop replaying the way he'd looked at her. Like he saw exactly what she was running from, and wanted to know more. Yuki didn't expect to see Hiroshi again outside family dinners. She definitely didn't expect him to show up at her university. Thursday afternoon, late October, she was presenting preliminary research to a small faculty panel, corporate malfeasance in real estate development, how companies displaced families through legal loopholes and buried truth under settlements. Halfway through her presentation, the door opened. Hiroshi slipped in quietly, taking a seat in the back row. No explanation, no apology, just sat there, legs crossed, watching her like she was the only person in the room. Yuki's throat went dry. She lost her place mid-sentence, had to glance at her notes to remember where she was going. One professor asked a follow-up question. She answered on autopilot, her brain screaming, "Why is he here? Why is he here?" When the presentation ended, Hiroshi stood and left without a word. She found him outside, leaning against a stone pillar near the campus gate, scrolling through his phone like he had all the time in the world. "What are you doing here?" Yuki demanded, walking straight up to him. He pocketed his phone, turned to face her with that infuriating calm. "I wanted to hear your research." "Why? Because I'm curious about you." Heat flooded her face. You can't just show up like this, it's inappropriate. Inappropriate how? His gaze was steady, unflinching. I'm interested in your work. I have resources that could help. That's business, Yuki, nothing more. But the way he said her name made it feel like everything more. I don't need help, she said. Everyone needs help. Smart people admit it. He straightened off the pillar. Your data on Shibuya displacement is incomplete. The Nakamura group settlement wasn't disclosed publicly, but I have access to those files. If you're interested... Yuki stared. You're offering to help with my thesis? I'm offering information. What you do with it is your choice. Why would you help me? Because your work matters. He paused, something shifting in his expression. And because I think you're capable of something most researchers aren't, which is honesty, even when it's ugly, even when it costs you. The words landed like a punch. Yuki thought about Frank, about how he'd never once admitted he was wrong, how he'd made her doubt her own instincts until she couldn't trust herself. Hiroshi wasn't like that. Hiroshi looked at uncomfortable truths without flinching. Coffee, she heard herself say. If we're discussing my research, it should be professional. Public. Hiroshi's lips curved. Dangerous. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. I'll send you the address. You don't have my number. Kenji does. And then he walked away, leaving Yuki standing there, heart racing, wondering when she'd lost control of the situation. The cafe was in Ebisu, tucked into a side street. Small, intimate, dark wood and low lighting that made conversations feel like confessions. Hiroshi was already there when she arrived. 2 cups of tea sat on the table. Green tea. No sugar, he said as she slid into the seat across from him. How did you drank it at dinner 2 weeks ago. You didn't add anything. He'd noticed. He'd remembered. They talked about research for an hour. Hiroshi pulled up files on his tablet. Emails between executives, financial records, documentation of families displaced and silenced with money. His explanations were clinical, precise. But underneath, Yuki heard something else. Regret. Complicity. You sound like you know these people personally, she said carefully. I do business with them. He set down his cup. Partnerships that benefit my company financially but cost other people everything. And you're okay with that? No. The honesty was brutal. But the world doesn't run on what I'm okay with. It runs on leverage. Compromise, survival. That's an excuse. It is. He didn't defend himself, didn't justify, just admitted it, and something cracked open in Yuki's chest. I want to be better, Hiroshi said quietly, meeting her eyes. I don't know if I can, but I want to try. Yuki wanted to reach across the table, touch his hand, tell him it wasn't too late. She didn't, because that would cross a line neither of them had named. Why are you telling me this? She asked instead. Because you asked. And because I think you deserve honesty, even when it's ugly. Their eyes held. The air thickened. Tell me about your wife, Yuki said. Hiroshi's expression shuddered. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. She died 5 years ago, he said finally. Cancer. 8 months from diagnosis to death. Long enough to say goodbye. Long enough to watch her disappear piece by piece. I'm sorry. So am I. The silence felt sacred, heavy with shared grief. Kenji doesn't talk about her, Yuki said. He was 21. Dealt with it by not dealing with it. Rina blamed me for a long time. For what? For not saving her. For working too much. For being too late. His jaw tightened. She wasn't wrong. They left together. Hiroshi walked her to the station. At the entrance he stopped. Yuki. She looked up. If I'm crossing a line, tell me now, he said. Because I'm about to... Her heart slammed. What line? The one where I stop pretending this is just research. She should have said no. Instead she whispered, then stop pretending. Hiroshi stepped closer. Go home, he said, voice rough. Before I do something we'll both regret. But when his hand came up, brushing hair behind her ear, Yuki forgot how to breathe. Good night, Yuki. He walked away, leaving her shaking, wanting, terrified. 2 weeks later, Kenji invited Yuki to his father's charity gala. Boring speeches, expensive champagne, my dad schmoozing with rich people, Kenji said. But Rina's going and she keeps asking about you. Plus, free food. You can't say no to free rich people food. Yuki almost said no. But she'd been thinking about Hiroshi constantly, replaying that moment at the station, the way he'd touched her hair like she was something precious and dangerous at the same time. Okay, she said. But if it's terrible, I'm leaving. Deal. The gala was at a 5-star hotel in Minato. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, women in designer gowns and men in tailored suits that cost more than Yuki's entire education. She wore a simple black dress, nothing fancy, but Rina grabbed her the second she arrived. "You look pretty," Rina announced, dragging her toward the bathroom. "But you need eyeliner. Trust me on this. I'm fine. You're pretty. There's a difference." Rina pulled out a makeup bag with surgical efficiency. "Now hold still or I'll accidentally stab you in the eye and then we'll both have a bad night." When she finished, Yuki barely recognized herself. Sharper, older, dangerous. "There," Rina said, satisfied. "Now you look like someone who could ruin lives. Go forth and destroy." If only you knew, Yuki thought. The ballroom was packed. Yuki felt out of place immediately, but Kenji appeared with champagne and his trademark grin. "Surviving? Barely? Good. My dad wants to say hi. He's over by." But Yuki had already seen him. Hiroshi stood near the far wall, deep in conversation with older men in expensive suits. He wore all black, no tie, hair swept back, looking like he could buy and sell entire lives without blinking. Then his eyes found hers across the crowded room. Everything else disappeared. He excused himself and walked toward them, and Yuki's pulse went into overdrive. "Kenji," Hiroshi said, clapping his son on the shoulder. "Yuki, I'm glad you came. Wouldn't miss it," Yuki lied through her teeth. "Kenji, your sister needs you. Something about photographer drama." Kenji groaned. "Fine. Don't bore Yuki to death with business talk, father." And just like that, they were alone in a room full of people. Hiroshi stepped closer. Close enough that she caught his scent, cedar and something darker that made her want to lean in. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. Don't what? Say things like that. Not here where people can see. Let them see. "Hiroshi, come with me." He didn't wait for an answer, just turned and walked toward a side exit. And Yuki, against every screaming instinct, followed. The garden was empty and cold, lit only by string lights and the glow of Tokyo beyond the walls. Yuki wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. Hiroshi shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders without asking. It was warm, heavy, smelled like him. "Why are we out here?" she asked. "Because I can't think straight when you're that close to me in a room full of people." Her breath hitched. "Hiroshi." "I know," he said, voice rough. "I know this is wrong. I know you're Kenji's friend. I know I'm too old. I know I shouldn't have shown up at your university. I know I shouldn't be standing here right now saying any of this." "Then why are you?" He turned to face her fully. "Because I can't stop thinking about you. Because I've spent 5 years feeling nothing. And then you walked into my house and suddenly He stopped, jaw clenched. "I don't know what to do with this." "Neither do I," Yuki whispered. Tell me to stop." What?" "Tell me to stop," he said again, stepping closer. "Tell me this is insane. Tell me to walk away and never speak to you again." She should have. God, she should have. Instead she whispered, "I can't." Hiroshi exhaled, relief and despair mixed together. He reached out, fingertips brushing her cheeks so gently it hurt. "I'm scared," Yuki admitted, voice breaking. "Of what?" "Of wanting you this much." "Yuki Biroto-san." Rina's voice shattered the moment. They sprang apart like they'd been electrocuted. Rina appeared in the doorway, phone in hand, completely oblivious to what she'd just interrupted. "There you are," she said brightly. "The donors want photos. You need to come back inside now." Hiroshi's hand dropped. His expression smoothed into that controlled mask he wore so well. "I'll be right there." Rina disappeared back inside. Hiroshi turned to Yuki and the regret in his eyes was devastating. "Go home," he said quietly, "please, before I do something I can't take back." Yuki took off his jacket with shaking hands, gave it back. "This was a mistake," she said. "I know. We can't do this again." But neither of them moved, neither looked away. Finally, Yuki forced herself to turn and walk back inside, hands trembling, chest aching, mind screaming that this was wrong. But her heart whispered something else entirely. More, I want more. What Yuki didn't know was that someone had been watching them from the shadows, someone who'd seen everything, and was already planning how to use it. Yuki avoided Kenji's calls for 3 days straight. On the 4th day, Hiroshi texted her. "We need to talk. My office, 7 p.m. Please." She shouldn't have gone. But at 6:45, she was standing outside Tanaka Industries headquarters, staring up at the glass tower, wondering when she'd become the kind of person who snuck around behind her best friend's back. The lobby security waved her through after a quick call upstairs. The elevator ride felt endless. By the time she reached the executive floor, her palms were slick with sweat. Hiroshi was standing at the window when she entered, hands shoved in his pockets, looking out at Tokyo like it was a problem he was trying to solve. "Close the door," he said without turning around. She did. The click echoed. Hiroshi finally faced her, and the exhaustion in his expression hit like a physical blow. Hair disheveled, tie loosened, the controlled mask completely gone, replaced by something raw and desperate and dangerously vulnerable. "I can't do this," he said. Yuki's stomach dropped. "Do what?" "Pretend." He crossed the space between them in 3 strides. "I have feelings for you that I shouldn't have. Feelings that are inappropriate and unethical, and probably a dozen other things a better man would ignore. But I'm not a better man, Yuki. I'm just a man who can't stop thinking about you." "Hiroshi, let me finish." His voice cracked. "I've listed every reason this is impossible. Every consequence, every way this could destroy my family, your future, everything I've built. And none of it, makes me want you any less." Silence stretched between them like a rope pulled too tight. "What do you want me to say?" Yuki whispered. "Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me to stay the hell away from you. And if I can't?" Hiroshi's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, the restraint was gone. "Then we're both in trouble." "I think about you constantly," Yuki said, words tumbling out. "When I'm studying, when I'm with Kenji, when I'm trying to sleep. And I hate it. I hate that I want you. I hate that this is wrong and I can't make myself care enough to stop. Yuki, I don't trust people anymore," she continued, voice breaking. "Not after Frank, not after Sienna. But when I'm with you, I feel safe. And that terrifies me more than anything." Hiroshi's hand came up, cupping her face like she was something precious. "I would never hurt you. You can't promise that. Nobody can." "No," he agreed. "But I can promise I'll try. I can promise that if I hurt you, it won't be because I didn't care enough." They were too close, his touch too warm. And Yuki was so tired of being strong, of being careful, of pretending she didn't want this with every fiber of her being. "We can't," she whispered, even as she leaned into his hand. "I know. Kenji would hate me, would hate both of us. I know. This is..." Hiroshi's forehead dropped to hers. "Tell me to stop, Yuki. One word and I walk away. I'll never bring this up again. We'll pretend this conversation never happened." She opened her mouth. The word wouldn't come. "2 weeks," Hiroshi said finally. "Give me 2 weeks to prove I can stay away from you. If I can manage it, we forget this ever happened. If I can't..." He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "If I can't, I'm going to ask you out properly, and I won't hide it, not from Kenji, not from anyone." Yuki's heart hammered. "You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. And Kenji?" Pain flickered across his face. "I'll deal with Kenji. But I need to know first, is this just me, or do you feel it too?" Yuki thought about Frank, about every time she'd ignored her instincts and paid the price. Then she thought about Hiroshi, about the way he looked at her like she mattered, like she was worth the risk. 2 weeks, she said, but after that, you decide, not me. You get to choose what happens next." He stepped back, putting space between them, and the loss of his touch felt like grief. "Go," he said quietly, "before I change my mind about letting you leave." Yuki grabbed her bag, headed for the door. Hand on the knob, she paused. "Hiroshi? Yes? You're not going to make it 2 weeks." His laugh was low and broken. "I know, she left..." What she didn't see was the figure standing in the shadows of the hallway outside. What she didn't hear was the sound of a phone camera clicking. What she didn't know was that everything she just said had been recorded, and tomorrow someone would use it to destroy everything. He lasted 10 days. 10 days before everything fell apart. It was raining when Hiroshi showed up at Yuki's apartment. Past midnight, thunder rolling, rain hammering the windows like fists demanding entry. Someone knocked. Yuki opened the door. Hiroshi stood there, completely soaked, hair plastered to his forehead, chest heaving like he'd run the entire way. "I can't," he said. "Hiroshi, I tried. God, I tried." Stepped forward and she stepped back, letting him in. Water dripped onto her floor. "I deleted your number, threw myself into work 16 hours a day, told myself you were Kenji's friend, that I was too old, too damaged, too... Hiroshi, I can't stop thinking about you." His voice cracked completely. "And I don't want to anymore. This is insane." "I know." Kenji will never forgive us. I know, we'll ruin everything. He stepped closer. But I'm here anyway, because the alternative is pretending I don't feel this and I can't do that anymore. Rain dripped from his hair down his face. He looked like a man drowning. Tell me to leave, he said desperately. Lie to me if you have to. But tell me... Yuki opened her mouth. The words wouldn't come. I can't, she whispered. Something in Hiroshi shattered. Then stop me, he said. He closed the distance in one stride, hands framing her face, and Yuki rose onto her toes and kissed him first. It wasn't gentle, wasn't soft. It was months of restraint exploding all at once, messy and desperate and completely inevitable. Hiroshi's hands slid into her hair, pulling her closer, and Yuki gasped against his mouth. He tasted like rain and regret, and something darker she couldn't name. This is wrong, she managed between kisses. I don't care. Kenji, I'll deal with Kenji. His mouth moved to her jaw, her throat, and Yuki's knees went weak. Right now, I don't care about anything except you. They stumbled backward. Yuki's back hit the wall and Hiroshi pinned her there, one hand braced beside her head, the other still tangled in her hair. His forehead dropped to hers, both of them breathing hard. Tell me you want this, he said. You know I do. Say it. I want you. The words came out broken. I've wanted you since that first dinner. And I hate it. I hate that I can't stop. I hate that I don't care what it costs. Hiroshi kissed her again, slower this time, and it felt like falling off a cliff. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Yuki was shaking. What happens now? She asked. Hiroshi's thumb traced her lower lip. Now we stop pretending. And Kenji? Pain flickered in his eyes. I'll tell him, when the time is right. When will that be? I don't know. His voice was raw. But I'm not giving you up. Not for him, not for anyone. This is going to destroy everything, I know. They moved to the couch. Hiroshi pulled her against his chest and Yuki listened to his heartbeat, steady and real and terrifying in its certainty. Stay, she whispered. Just tonight. Hiroshi nodded. And for a few stolen hours, wrapped in his arms, listening to rain against the windows, Yuki let herself believe this could work. She was wrong. The next morning, Yuki's phone exploded with messages. From Kenji, from Rina, from numbers she didn't recognize. Her hands shook as she opened the first one. It was a video. Grainy security footage from outside Hiroshi's office. Audio of their conversation. I have feelings for you that I shouldn't have. I think about you constantly. Tell me to stop. The video had been sent to everyone. Kenji, Rina, Hiroshi's business partners, the university faculty board. Yuki's stomach turned to ice. Her phone rang. Kenji? Tell me it's not true, he said when she answered. His voice was dead. Empty. Kenji, Tell me you're not sleeping with my father. Silence. Oh God. Kenji's voice broke. Oh God, Yuki, how could you? How could both of you? I'm sorry. Sorry? He laughed, sharp and broken. You're sorry? You slept with my father. You lied to my face for months. And you're sorry. Kenji, please, don't. Just don't. She heard him breathing hard. I trusted you. I brought you into my home, my family, and you... The line went dead. Yuki sank to the floor, phone falling from her hand. Hiroshi appeared in the doorway, fully dressed, his own phone pressed to his ear. His face was ashen. When he saw her expression, he ended his call. They know, Yuki whispered. I know. Everyone knows. Hiroshi sat beside her on the floor, pulling her against him. Then we stop hiding, he said. 3 days later, Rina was hospitalized. Overdose, sleeping pills. She survived, barely. But the note she left said everything. I can't look at either of you anymore. Kenji blamed them both, cut them off completely, changed his number, moved out of Tokyo. Hiroshi's business partners forced him to step down as CEO. The scandal was too much. Yuki was quietly asked to withdraw from her fellowship. The university couldn't have that kind of controversy. They lost everything. But they had each other. 6 months later, in a tiny apartment in Osaka where no one knew their names, Hiroshi asked Yuki to marry him. We've already lost everything else, he said. Might as well make it official. She said yes, because some love stories don't have happy endings. They just have endings where you choose the person over the world and live with the consequences, forever. So, there it is. They chose each other and lost everything. Kenji, Rina, their careers, their reputations. Was it worth it? Drop a comment. Could you forgive them if you were Kenji? Would you sacrifice everything for love? And where are you watching from? Hit subscribe because the next story is even more brutal. Trust me,